This is a no BS video. This is a simple and clear call to action that we are about to see an amazing dip buying opportunity, and that this will likely be the last dip buying opportunity before we get at least a very significant upside here in crypto. I believe Bitcoin will rocket, but I also believe this will be extremely favorable to altcoins. We're also going to talk about the possibility of an extended cycle, though that won't be the exact focus of today's episode, though we will explore why this cycle has felt different and why the next episodes of this particular crypto cycle might not quite exactly parallel the past. So today, get excited because this is going to be a cut and dry, focused video on where I'm buying the dip, why I'm doing it this way, and what I believe will be the highest ROI opportunities in the space. If you guys are excited for this, smash that like button, make sure to subscribe with the bell notification on, and let's jump into this. Now, we went over this, which is that over the last few weeks, we've seen what's called a swing failure pattern, which is right here. We've seen a swing failure where Bitcoin made a high on the weekly, made a higher high on the weekly, and then failed and kind of came down. When you see this higher high and then fail, the last time this happened, right? The last time this happened, there was this one right here. And then there was this one right here. And both times, you saw a really nasty fall afterwards, right? Saw a really, really nasty fall. Actually, we saw it here and then it came down. We saw it here and then it came down. So these can be really nasty. We talked about this. It can be really, really nasty when you see what's called a weekly swing failure pattern. But I also think that the demise of crypto is largely overstated. And one of the reasons that I've been super excited is we finally got an update from one of my favorite and very underrated analysts who goes by Aporia. Now, highly encourage you to follow because they only post every now and then, like really rarely do they post. It's only every, like you can see, there's only a post every week or two, there's just not that many posts here. So when I see something out of this account, I tend to take it with a lot more emphasis because they only post and they choose their words wisely. Now, again, you could see they posted this chart in 2023 in January saying, hey, look, we're at the lows. This is it. It's time to buy. It's time to go up. And this is when Bitcoin was trading way lower than what it is, 17,000, right? And so they put up this sort of quantitative analysis, really simplified chart where they said, look, this is what we're seeing is a low point, and you could have shipped in at 17,000 and been a very, very happy camper. They've also been posting this logarithmic regression channel, which the biggest regret I have is fading this during the Trump dump of April, because they posted this and they said, hey, look, it looks like we should be bottoming here. And I was so, caught up in the Trump euphoria thinking, no, he's going to crash the markets. I was ignoring some very, very simple quantitative analysis. Now, what they just put up is this fall leaf, right? Which shows that in the fall, we usually get a massive bottoming period in September, and then fall is very bullish. You can see it happened here in 2023, happened here in 2024, and here we are in 2025, and they're putting the fall leaf indicator essentially suggesting that we are repeating these same patterns. And as you've seen, if you buy around this blue line, you're a happy camper. So, it's hard to exactly see this, but I think you're coming in around 100K, maybe a little lower. What I'm saying here is that if we get these prices over the next few weeks in September, typically the month where we expect a sell-off, where we've, everyone and their mom has been talking about the September sell-off, this is where you buy. You buy with the force of God, you buy with everything you have. And I have some stables. I've been rolling in some stables because of course we have the Black Hole project, which I've encouraged everyone to get involved with. If you have Black Hole V Black, then you'll be making some new revenue each week. And I'm going to be rolling those stables into the market as we get into these lows. So I'm very, very excited for this. I also make revenue in a variety of ways. I'm going to be chucking everything I have. Every last dollar is going in when we hit this leaf. Really this blue line. So again, this is just a simplified way to look at the market. And being honest, fading this chart earlier this year is one of my biggest regrets, period. I've been following this analyst for quite some time now. They really, really do post it well. But you can see the red area is where I think that we should try to hit later on, which would be, north of 150K on Bitcoin. I think that's totally possible here. Now, the real question is, do we then see this break, or is this going to be the way it goes, where we go from the lower end of the band to the higher end of the band and we just kind of repeat it? Because to be honest, Bitcoin to me doesn't look like it did in prior bull runs. To me, Bitcoin right now, it looks like a different market structure. And I've gone over this many times, but you see, there's a move up and then it kind of retraces almost the entire move, moves up again, retraces almost the entire move. And it does this over and over again. And that is just a distinctly different behavior than these parabolic rises that we saw in 2021, in 2017. You just had these parabolic, many, many X's of growth where you saw, 10x, 20x, 10x, 20x without these moves being really retraced until the bear market, right? Where we'd see this huge move, you see these and then we collapse, right? In this case, we saw a huge, in this like 200x move or whatever, and then we came all the way down. That's not the way Bitcoin is behaving anymore. So if we keep in this channel, to me, I'm not sure I see the logic for going much lower than the channel. Even if we go all the way up to the high end of the channel, then I'd only expect us really to stay in this channel until proven otherwise. The reason is that Bitcoin has become an institutional asset class. It has become a stock market asset. And a lot of people think, oh, that's going to make it so that there's no more altcoins and altcoin seasons. And my perspective is actually no. Altcoins will actually have their time in the light, but I don't think it's going to necessarily conform just to the 4-year cycle. I think it's going to conform instead to the business cycle. And this is where I've become increasingly interested in the ISM as something to understand as maybe one of the biggest factors, which is related to all the other things in the economy, like rates, and obviously all these things will fluctuate. But if you can see here, the ISM is typically over 50, and that's when things are healthy. When it goes under 50 into this red zone, it's typically a recession almost every single time. Except over the last 3 years since 2022, we haven't seen a recession, but we've seen the ISM under 50, which means that we're in this sort of bearish negative posturing for the business cycle. Now, when ISM gets back over 50, which it looks like it's trying to build up and do here, that's when we should see a more bullish posturing for markets in general. So you could see this as this sort of, subdued market we've been in since 2022. And a lot of people, they're saying that because crypto is becoming more like the stock market, we won't get alt season. My response to that is that because crypto is becoming more like the stock market, we're seeing it conform more to the business cycle than simply the liquidity rotation game that we've known pretty much since crypto has been created. Now, this is a really interesting chart because what you can see here is that the ISM has been over 50 for almost the entirety of crypto's history. Certainly all the 3 alt seasons we've seen 2017, the big one, 2021, the big one, those were both with ISM over 60. Here you can see the ISM was actually over 60 in 2017 and over 60 in 2021. And you can see in the 2013 bull run, it was well over 50, right? So to me, when people say that they expect no alt season because crypto is becoming more like the stock market, I think that you have to look at the actual drivers of more risky bets in the stock market, which in this case is ISM. Now, I think it's really, really important that we understand the ISM as one of the most important factors governing the overall stock market, because you guys have heard that the Mag 7, the Magnificent 7, has given most of the gains of the stock market over the last few years. And that's essentially what I look at as the stock market version of Bitcoin dominance. You have the biggest stocks is where everyone's putting all their money because it's the safest. So Bitcoin has driven a lot of the growth in this current market cycle because it's the safest and because, most critically, the ISM is still under 50. Now, when that changes, I believe we will see liquidity flow to smaller cap stocks as well as smaller cap altcoins. So to me, the length of time that the ISM has been under 50 here is not only, as you can see, wildly out of proportion based on history, but this leads me to believe that we will see a longer period of bullishness on lower cap stuff once it breaks above. Typically, there's some symmetry in markets where the length of the depression or negative market is somewhat correlated to the length of the positive market. So if it's taken this long to recover back into risk, I wouldn't be shocked to see the risk and the actual duration of bid on the risk be significantly longer as well. That's why I've been tweeting stuff like this. And I want to be clear. I believe this will happen. But if we get a massive explosive altcoin season in Q4, I'm going to be selling coins. If we get a massive run up in Q4, I'm going to be selling some coins. I'm going to be updating you very regularly. So please have that notification bell on because this is going to be very time sensitive stuff in Q4. But when you look here, there's another analyst, Tech Dev, who's looking at the business cycle. I believe they're using ISM here. I'm not sure what the actual metrics they're using here is, but they're showing that the business cycle is still at the lows. And pretty much that crypto peaked both times using the business cycle as it's rolled over from these red bars to these pink bars. This is sort of 100% unrelated to the halving. It's not the narrative, it's not the halving, it's the business cycle, and that's all you'll ever need to understand these markets. And if you think about it, Bitcoin maturing to the stock market, all these altcoin digital asset treasuries going to the stock market, the ETH narrative being one of a treasury company on the stock market, all of these things are showing that the stock market buyers, the Wall Street buyers, the traditional buyers are the ones that are shaping the current liquidity flows of crypto. Therefore, it would make a lot of sense that the ISM, the business cycle that actually shapes Wall Street and how they buy, is dictating a lot of how these liquidity flows are happening. So this is what I really want to bring up. Obviously, we've had some amazing boosts to the market, like regulatory changes, ETFs, and of course, what we expect over the next several months, which is the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, and the anti-CBDC bill, etc. All of those changes around the regulatory environment are very, very bullish. However, the actual way that Wall Street is directing money is dictated by some larger structural things like interest rates, the business cycle, etc. There's a lot of people who are looking at the M2 money supply chart. Again, not related to the halving, not related to altcoins, not related to anything except for just money in the system. And so as you can see here, Bitcoin has deviated quite a significant amount from the M2 money supply. And Raoul Pal here expects it to reconnect here, which means that it needs to make a move more closer to $150,000 to $200,000 to actually reconnect with this line. Pretty crazy stuff here. So is this guaranteed to sort of dictate every single move of Bitcoin? No, obviously, clearly not. It's deviated here. But it's showing that the macro indicators around Bitcoin, around the macro economy, are showing that price is lagging here and should catch up. So again, we're going to be looking at ISM as an indicator that maybe the cycle will go longer. Maybe it's so simple as that the cycle will just continue to grow and iterate, and Bitcoin will hit the top end of this band and then the bottom and the top and the bottom, and it'll keep ping-ponging up for the next 5, maybe 10 years. I actually wouldn't be shocked if that happens. Now, of course, it would change this sort of emotional dynamic of crypto, make it more of a long-term game as opposed to the short-term get rich in 1 minute type thing. I don't know if it's going to be exactly like that. Of course, when Bitcoin makes its runs, there will be all these parabolic advances. That's why we love this industry. It's still young, still very volatile. However, this is something that I want on your radar, is that as crypto matures, the chances of this 4-year cycle just collapsing the market seem less and less likely, even though there are 4-year cycles in mainstream markets. Again, this will be its own video, the lengthening cycles, the potential for a longer cycle, the super cycle, which I'm a believer is sort of more or less what we're going to start to see happen. But to keep things simple, I'm buying these fall leaves. I'm going to buy them. This chart is the one thing that I've been so regretful that I faded earlier in the year. But more to the point, I see a lot of negativity on the timeline, and it's because people are not giga rich yet. They feel time passing, etc. The biggest thing is that we don't really have a choice. If you have a better way to make generational wealth, you should be doing that. You can shovel the profits into Bitcoin and just ride the wave. But most people, their only choice is to be bullish, because if you're not a 1 in 1,000 trader like a Brandon Hong, like a Crown, that takes extreme emotional discipline. It takes extreme practice and usually many years. However, in crypto, if you buy the right altcoin, things can go up 100x and they can only go down 100%. So you can only lose 1x, but you could gain 100x, and that's the game. That's the game that we're playing. And that's why we stay in this game, because I believe this is the true way that people will make their lives better. Of course, there's many people who don't make it for various reasons, but I'm hoping with enough education, we can save those people from making the mistakes and get them into the long-term good projects that will make them money long-term. Again, we love some degenerate altcoins on this channel. We do. But of course, we've made it very clear that those allocations should be very small in your portfolio. And to be very clear, I still hold almost every single altcoin that I've discussed throughout 2024. I believe that they'll probably come back and rip. And so I'm willing to hold those as long as it takes, because I think once liquidity flows, the great AI coins, the great AI agent coins, the RWA coins, the DeFi coins, and especially the gaming coins will start to go absolutely ballistic in the future. I'm actually becoming more bullish than ever, because it looks like especially gaming has put in a sustainable bottom. So I will be doing a massive gaming update, because I think it's finally time that you could start seeing some extreme value. And of course, once this market turns, I think gaming will run really hard. And once the price starts running, of course, the narrative becomes amazing again. So the super cycle, it's going to happen. I'm very excited. And honestly, I can't wait. Now, as always, want to take a second to shout out our sponsor and partner of the channel, Blowfin, who of course allow you to trade short and long. If you had taken a short up at the top of the market during the swing failure that we identified a few weeks ago, you could have made a ton of money shorting this market. Of course, trading is extremely difficult, it is extremely risky, so you have to learn your stuff. I recommend checking out people like Brandon Hong and Crown. But of course, if you are a great trader, just know I'm going to be airdropping 100,000 super tokens to the best traders in my community. We actually picked out a few users to give $1,000 worth of super to each over the last few days. And so if you sign up and trade here, there's no KYC. Anyone from the US or beyond can do this, and it is a phenomenal trading facility. So check out Blowfin, and if you sign up and trade, you may earn yourself some super airdrops, and if you're a real good trader, you might earn yourself a whole boatload of super. So check it out, sign up and trade on this link. And like I said, we will be making a special Telegram group for the best traders here at the end of the year. As you can see, they have some juicy trading bonuses here, getting up to $250 in bonus cash. And you can see here, if you're a whale and you're going hard, you can get a few $1,000 in bonuses just from signing up, depositing, and trading. Once again, shout out to Blofin. If you're looking for a great centralized way to short or long the market, I highly recommend it. And we appreciate them partnering with the channel. Sign up with the link in the description. And with that, let's get back to the video. So again, we're going to start seeing some incredible deals here. As you can see, Sol, if you look at it on the logarithmic chart, it looks like it's been in this nice compression zone for 18 months. I think Sol will probably give a pretty good entry here. I don't know when it's going to come down, but once we get into this lower end of this band, once we hit these fall leaves, there'll probably be some panic, as there always is, and that's the chance to load up, right? I'm not getting cute. I'm not selling and trying to rebuy. I don't know when the bottom is going to be put in here, but I will say that if we do sweep this blue line, I'm going to be shipping in a lot of stables, pretty much every bit of dry powder I have, and I'm hoping that we can ride this up. Now, what am I going to be buying? Well, I thought this was pretty interesting. You see, like, the Chainlink competitor Pith got absolutely this explosive growth after being tapped by the Trump administration as a blockchain oracle. So you're seeing this tech that people are saying doesn't do anything, like the oracles, Chainlink, Pith, etc. Well, guess what? These are graduating to the highest levels of finance and government. So I don't know where people are getting this mythological lack of value in crypto, but they're about to be disproven on the highest level when they see some of the best pieces of technology graduate, the DeFi, the oracles. Those are going to happen first, stable coins, and then we're going to see the explosion and the actual return of positive speculation in other assets, whether it's crypto, AI, robotics, gaming. That stuff is going to get hot again. I'm extremely excited to see it, but it's important to realize in a climate like this, I think altcoins are going to do really well. And all it takes is one news article. Also, I thought this was pretty interesting. Staked ETH is actually trading way higher than non-staked ETH. And that's because there's this queue to get in and out. But staked ETH actually broke all-time highs and has traded as high as 5,300. And so if you look at that, that actually shows that there is a significant growth in ETH and that it has made all-time highs. So this can be maybe a little bit more of a sensible way to look at ETH, is that the staked ETH, which is what ETH is supposed to be used as, is actually doing better than ETH itself. Very interesting stuff. Of course, we're very bullish on Avalanche. Black Hole is on Avalanche. Hasib here has a great tweet saying that Avalanche is putting some amazing numbers on the board. Stablecoin supply is up 14%. USDC DEX volume is up 2.5x, right? This is almost entirely due to Black Hole. So Black Hole alone has boosted Avalanche DEX volumes. And you're seeing that across the board, people, different analysts are actually calling out Avalanche, saying that they're leading the transaction growth among the US government implementation. You're seeing that Nansen is flagging AVAX for printing its strongest 180-day run yet, with 200,000 daily transactions in March and now 1.6 million as recently as last week. So this is an 8x climb, and you can see this change here in the summertime. There was a little dip in August, but you can see the change here since Black Hole was released is absolutely staggering. So again, Link is going to be a blue chip. If you get a great entry on Link, it's going to be great. Sol is a blue chip. If you get a great entry on this dip, it's going to be great. I think Pepe has probably gone a very long time. You can see Crash here as a mega Pepe bull. I actually thought this was pretty interesting because he's identified a kind of weird pattern here where you have this double bottom, then you have a run up against this downward diagonal trend line. I'm going to get my cursor out. So you can see this downward diagonal trend line here where you have several points of contact and then it breaks and goes parabolic. Then you have a double bottom, several points of contact, and then he's saying, expecting some parabolic upside pretty much here. It looks like he's expecting about a 10x based on this chart. Anyway, I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but it's worth noting that this is some interesting TA. All I can say is it's compelling. I hold a lot of Pepe still. I never sold any. I hold Pepe and Mog are two of my main meme coin positions, so I'm certainly hoping this plays out. And then, of course, you have Ansem here saying that he's hoping for a window of opportunity with a market pullback and fear with these hype unlocks. You actually had two things that have come out and for the first time have created a negative narrative for hype, which is one, you have the first round of unlocks for the team. These are worth billions of dollars. You have the first round of unlocks. Now, for a team that's using all of this revenue and buying back the token, I don't think you have too much to worry about, though who knows, unlocks are unlocks. But at the same time, hype has unlocks coming, as well as Binance and OKX, pretty much offshore exchanges, are now going to be able to let US customers trade on them. It was an announcement, I think, from the CME group or something, but pretty much there might no longer be this walled off offshore exchange world where US citizens can't trade on Binance, can't trade on Bybit. If that happens, that is very, very much so a huge issue for hype, because you have these main players that no one could really access. You traded on Hyperliquid because it was all you could do. If you could trade on Bybit, well, that would probably be a better experience. I mean, in theory. So at the very least, this is competition for hype. To me, though, I would look for there to be some kind of negative unwinding of the hype narrative, and I would bid that because hype is actually not competing directly with these centralized exchanges. The decentralized layer makes it very, very much so a building block, an open protocol block that I think has many positive attributes that these centralized players cannot and will never have. So this to me would be an opportunity to get into hype. If it gets a nice sell-off, if we get under $30 maybe into those $20 ranges, that would be amazing for hype. I would love to see it come back down to $20. Maybe I'm dreaming here, but I would love to go back and buy around $20. I mean, even lower, but maybe I'm asking for too much. Santa's not in the DMs right now. And again, we'll be talking a lot about this, but Mythical Myth has been absolutely killing it. We had John Linden on the channel. We had a whole interview with him on the timeline on X. You should check it out. But Myth just did a Pudgy Penguins game and it's going super viral. So again, Luca crushing the marketing, Mythical Games with an amazing model. And you better believe Super is all over these partnerships. So again, crypto gaming has been so muted. I would say that the narrative is about as beaten up as it can get. And I'm excited to see the comeback, which I think is starting to be mounted right now. Again, there's a ton of coins here, but I think it's really important to focus on majors right now. The major altcoins on this dip, that's the part of the cycle that will rotate most likely next. And that will fatten up your bag so you can take tons of chances on the lower cap stuff, the AI, the gaming, the RWA, the meme coins, all that stuff will give you the dry powder for when things get really frothy. But in general, keep it simple. I'm going to be buying this blue line, right? I don't know exactly where that blue line comes in, but I'm going to be buying it and I'm going to be telling you as I do it. Keep your eyes on Aporia's account. They do a good job of actually telling you when they do consider buying. You can see they actually called out the Pico bottom of ETH BTC, saying, hey, look, last cycle around this time, ETH top versus Bitcoin, this time around it bottoms for the sake of my bags. And you can see that they absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. If you would have bought ETH here, you'd been a very, very happy camper. So again, keep it simple. Shout out to Aporia. They'll let you know when they're actually shooting off those slugs. But I think it's as simple as buying the regression band when it's at the lows. It's been working for years now. If that changes, now we have a real change in behavior. Maybe we're looking at some serious bear market. I don't think that's happening though. With rate cuts coming, with liquidity coming, with a ton more excitement for crypto coming, I see this as a massive buying opportunity. I'm also going to be transitioning my tone of content as we come into this later stage of the bull run to be a lot less drumbeaty and a lot more level-headed because it's important that you have a real strategy here, a real strategy for how we're going to not only play the rest of this bull run, but also make sure that it helps your life out, that it changes your life, not just today, but into the future. So if you guys are excited for that, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and check out this video popping up right now, as I'm sure you'll absolutely love it.